If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Ooh, ain't got no home. I know place wrong. Ain't got no home. I know face wrong. I'm a lonely boy. I ain't got a home.
What you know about that? Yeah, no doubt, Frogman. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday as I am. I think I figured it out. I have finally figured it out, Roland. And we're going to do this every day. And it's going to keep me on my toes right here on this beautiful program. I didn't even think you knew about the Frogman. It's a song from one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. It was in the soundtrack of one of the favorite movies as a kid called The Lost Boys with Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, who was a good friend of mine for a long time, and Jason Patrick, Jamie Gertz, still have a crush on that woman, but she went off and married a billionaire, so, there's that. Kiefer Sutherland, the
Lost Boys is one of my is in my top 5 movies of all time.
Is it real? Because I love that movie.
Just when I was a little, I was too young to be watching it in the first place.
Right, of course.
But that song, "Thou shalt not," that don't just sticks in my head, and it just makes the movie that much greater when that song's playing during certain parts.
It really, really does. And I listen to that soundtrack often. But Frogman, I love that song, and I love bringing it up. And the song is, of course, "I Don't Have a Home. I Ain't Got a Home." Is the actual song. I used to play that way back in my Boston days as well. And the reason why I'm playing it today is because 2 days in a row, there has been an article about the homeless and the wealth disparities in the state of Connecticut. And I thought that was interesting that these stories have been propping up. What's also interesting, and I do believe it's not by coincidence, both articles were written in the Connecticut Insider. Yeah, it was a Connecticut Insider, right? Yeah, I think so. I could be wrong. Yes, Connecticut Insider, written by Alex Putterman. He's a staff writer there. So he wrote a story that we talked about yesterday, talking about the amount of people living in poverty in the state of Connecticut versus those who are wealthy in the state of Connecticut. And I think it's like half the 360,000 in the state are living in poverty. Half of that number are own homes or live in homes that are worth $1 million or more. And this next article by Alex Putterman is "Homelessness Surges in Wealthy Connecticut." Quote, "I'm surrounded by millionaires, and next door this is happening." And I'm reading this article, and I've had this debate with writers. I've had this debate with thought leaders. I've had this debate with civil rights leaders. And, of course, everyone else under the sun who thinks they know better than anyone else on how to deal with homeless people. Let me first tell you that it isn't as simple as talking to one homeless person or a few homeless people to understand the plight of the homeless. By the way, there is no such thing. And I'm not saying that Alex here is responsible for the problem with solving homelessness, but he's not helping. And I know he wants to help. He wouldn't talk about it if he didn't want to help. I get it. I know everyone wants to help. These are people who are living in the street under considerable conditions, extreme heat and extreme cold. Some of them have children. Some of them have pets. Some of them have other illnesses, and they cannot deal with the cold. But when I read these stories, sure, they talk to a plethora of people who are under circumstances that are different from the others. But here's where my problem is. If you want to solve homelessness, stop starting from the rich. The wealthy have nothing to do with the homeless problem. They don't. Now, I know some people are going to sit up here and say, but they have all the wealth. That's not the problem. The problem is never how much money people have. And it isn't even about how much money people don't have. That's not the problem. It is about choices. It is about lifestyle choices. But that's the hard part. That is the hardest part in all of this. It's because it's cruel to put the onus on the individual who is homeless. You see, they are a victim, and they cannot be a victim of their own circumstances, because if they are, you won't care. And the objective is to get you to care. Do you understand that? It is all agenda-based. That's sad, but look, I'm talking to you from a person who was homeless for 3 years. As a teenager. Unfortunately, we live in a society where everyone uses everybody. For whatever moral reason it may be, to get moral currency, to feel smarter, to feel that like they care more, so they can put on the pin, so they can tell their friends how much they're doing for those in need. It's always bragging rights. But a true person who understands the homeless knows that each homeless person has their own independent and individual story. Homeless people are not like a group of people. They are individuals. What leads them to this place is an isolated thing. It wasn't because one big, great, grand thing came upon them like a meteor that got rid of the dinosaurs. It doesn't work like that. And some people have made poor choices in their lives. Address that. But it cannot be solved. Remember, the NGOs or whatever, a social group that's out there that gets funding from the federal, if not state government, they are dealing with the problem as a one-size-fits-all issue. How? You're dealing with human beings. And they are not all the same. And it is difficult to tell bureaucracies that people are individuals. How do I solve the problem of an individual when I need to see them as a group? And if I'm starting it off by saying it's because there is a disparity between rich and poor, the rich have nothing to do with the poor. Nothing. People make no sense when they say, well, the reason why people are poor and people are rich is because rich people are making money off the poor. How's that possible? Go get $1 million from a poor person right now. Go get $1 from a poor person right now. Try to get a poor person to invest $5 in a junk stock. Try to get somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck to donate $20 to your, economic plan for the poor. They will not separate themselves from $20 because every dollar counts. And to believe that they are manipulated by the rich to give up their money so that they get richer makes no sense. but it gives you an opportunity to put someone in a villain's position and a victim's position, even though the math ain't mathin', as the kids like to say. So I'm sorry that there are a bunch of bleeding hearts out there who just want the narrative to continue. They need it to continue. But this is the reason why the problem will never be solved. And here's the worst part, Donald in the chat room. Your failing on this subject is because of your arrogance on the subject. See, sir, you, who's obviously much more moral than I am, can't see past your arrogance on the issue. You see, because Reese doesn't hold the values that you do on the subject, I'm automatically wrong. You won't even consider them. You forget that I am from a much better vantage place than you are. I'm a former homeless person. I did not rise through the ranks because someone gave me a hand up. I fought. I scraped. Hell, Donald, I even lied. I lied on job applications. I lied a hell of a lot. And you want to know why? Because I wanted it more. I got my first corporate job because I lied throughout the entire hiring process. I talked about things that I didn't have and things that I didn't obtain. And I got there and I played it off well enough so I can just get a job to get into the door, getting paid $8 an hour. I started in June of 1995, and by October of the same year, I was the operations manager of a small logistics company that was pulling in $2.5 million a year. As operations manager, I was working under the president by the name of Paul Malamet. You can go look him up and ask him. He'll tell you. Under my leadership, again, working from $8 an hour in 1995, I was promoted to operations manager where I was making $30,000 a year. Under my leadership, with a staff of 5, working all across the country, getting people to get their items in the same day. We were doing faster than FedEx. We were doing what's called same-day logistics. It was unheard of back in the day. In 1994, it began. By 1995, I was the operation manager of that company. It was so big, the international company out of Canada named Dynamic, you may see their trucks driving in and out of your neighborhoods. They bought the company. I was subsequently fired for other reasons, but that's another story. But the bottom line is that every story is individual, and guess what? There are homeless people out there who will never, ever get the opportunity that I had. There are plenty of them out there who will never take advantage of the opportunity that I made for myself. That logistics job, I had it while I was sleeping on somebody's couch. Parlayed that into moving in with the young lady that I was dating. I was living on 31st Street and Lexington Avenue. Out my window, I could see the Empire State Building. I was living in a town called Kips Bay. I couldn't afford to live there. But she was working for Warlock Records as the assistant to the president of the company. And it was his apartment that he rented to us for a mere $1,800 a month. I was a homeless person 5 years earlier. When I see these stories and I listen to them and they talk about these things, they don't know what they're talking about. They deal with people, as you know this, every day, and it is a constant in our life. When they see people at these grander things, homeless, black, white, rich, poor, middle class, tall, short, they don't see people as people. They must see them as groups for 2 reasons. To either dismiss them or to engage them. It makes it easy. It's easy for someone to write an article like this. To say it's hard to believe that there are rich people across the street and poorer people on that side. It is easy for you to just look at that and it just says, it just seems wrong. Yeah, of course it does. If you look at everything like it's a TV show or a Hollywood movie, there's right, there's wrong, there's good, there's bad, there's moral, there's immoral. That's not life. Sometimes the bad guy has good in him. And sometimes the good guy can be evil. That's who we are. We're human. Given the right or wrong circumstances, we can do the right or wrong thing. But it's impossible for you to write an article if you're not doing what's called the basic food groups of heartstring pulling. And that's creating a bad guy, creating a good guy, creating a victim, creating a victor. Ask any of these people if their homelessness is a result of their own choices. Why not talk about that? When I was a kid, I remember when my uncle would make me talk to the homeless guy and find out what got him there. The reason why my uncle would do it, he would say, listen to him, because if you make the same mistakes he did, you're going to end up just like him. That's how this works. But we stopped doing that because everybody wants to pat themselves on the back. Everybody wants to feel good about themselves. Everybody wants to be a do-gooder, and everybody wants to demonize someone. It's necessary. Don't get me wrong. I've done it here. Justifiably, by the way. Justifiably. Nobody get nuts. I am justified. But it's true. It's true. I don't even have to read this article and you know it. So look, I look at guys like Donald. Donald, I know you mean well. Of course you do. You hate to see people who are poor. You hate to see people who are out on the street, homeless, suffering. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? But then again, who amongst us isn't suffering in our own way? Who among us isn't trying to make ends meet in our own way? We all have struggles. And when I hear people say things about fairness, let me explain to you what fairness means. Nothing. There is no fair. Fair is subjective. Fair is in the eye of the beholder. Anybody can call something fair. But ask another person if they see it your way, and they'll see it entirely different. There is no fair. There is no systematic, rudimentary definition. Fair is always subjective. You may think it isn't fair that homeless people live here while rich live there. But if you don't know the circumstances, it's easy for you to make that claim. You don't have to do any work. You don't have to make any effort. All you have to do is just say it. And of course, some ignoramus will join behind you and says, yeah, that's not fair. It doesn't seem fair. Peel behind the layers. Don't just look at them as you drive by. You really want to understand the homeless? Get out your car. Walk up to them. Go ask them why they're there. Go ask all of them. Find out if their story's the same. Find out if they're all a monolith. Then get back to me. I promise you'll have a change of heart. But looking at it 30 feet above it, looking down your nose on the rest of the world, judging it, saying this and that, you know better than them. You know better than anybody. If you want to opine about this, please do in the chat room. Go to reseontheradio.com, or you can call us here, 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. We'll be back. More news, more views than you can shake a stick at. It's Reese on the Radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Reese on the Radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC, News Talk 1080.
Oh, man, a pleasure to be here on a Tuesday. I am having a fantastic day. The wife yelled at me a little bit, but that was because I was kind of being a baby, to be honest. She says, my wife, being a medic, said to me today. She goes, the bigger you are, the more whiny you are about pain. And I am, I'll admit, I'm very whiny about pain. So she makes fun of it. She's so much smaller than me. I never realized that someone that little can intimidate me. So I don't get it at all. It's just, I always found that amazing. I don't know. Is that love? Is that what it is? It's like somebody that little, they say something to you, they puff out their chest, and you just like, so, okay, all right. Idea how she does it. It's totally psychological. I want to address something in the chat room. Donald said this, and Donald and I have conversations off the air a lot. I mean, he is always texting me. I say that exhaustively because it doesn't matter what it is. Donald's always, he's reaching out to me in some way. God bless him. I tell him all the time, Donald, I love you. And I mean that sincerely, Donald. But he and I ideologically do not see eye to eye. And he put in a quote inside the chat room. And he says, to whom much is given, much will be required. And I often hear people say that. And it is from the Bible. It is a verse from the Bible. It's Luke 12:48. Here's what the phrase says. This is the phrase, to whom much is given, much will be required. It's a biblical principle found in Luke 12:48. It signifies that those who have been blessed with abundance, whether it be wealth, knowledge, or resources, have a responsibility to use those blessings wisely and for the benefit of others. It emphasizes the importance of stewardship and accountability for one's blessings. And that is the brilliance of that statement. It isn't as blanket and as simple as, you got it, you got to give it. No, it all must be done wisely and for the benefit. You can't just up and say, you've got $20 million, so now you have to give it to everybody else. What about that is wise? And you're also forgetting this. Whoever gives abundance, no one is given abundance. Some earn abundance. Many people earn abundance. See, that's another comment that's made by people who I think are misinformed or on purpose delusional. They see people with wealth and they immediately have this attitude or this response that says they didn't earn it. It was just given to them. They didn't work one finger to the bone. They see their own lives and reflect on, I work really hard every day. How's he have a mansion and I don't? You know nothing about that person. I'm going to tell you one of my favorite movies that I will admit many people will make fun of. But one of my favorite movies is a movie with Molly Ringwald, directed by John Hughes, called Pretty in Pink. I love that movie primarily for the soundtrack. Shell Shock, anyone? Shell Shock? Echo and the Bunnymen, Bring on the Dancing Horses. Anyway, no, I digress. Anyway, there's a scene where she's driving in her pink little car. I can't remember the name of that car. Maybe somebody could tell me. She's driving in her pink little car, and she's got Ducky in the car, and Ducky is going through her tape deck trying to find a good song, and they're driving through the rich neighborhood. In fact, in this movie, that's primarily what it's about. Andy, Molly Ringwald's character, is from the wrong side of the tracks, from a working class background, and she falls in love with Blaine, played by Andrew McCarthy, who's a rich kid. He's got a horse, a barn, all that good stuff. And it talks about the disparity, the classism that happens in a high school. But while she's driving through the rich neighborhood, Andy's character, Molly Ringwald's character, Andy, says this famous line that I didn't realize until I became old enough to realize what was so wrong with it. She says, I bet you the people who live in those houses don't even realize how beautiful they are. And it's every time I hear it, it gets me. It just, and that's where people are coming from. Of course, the rich people know how beautiful the house is. Why do you think they bought it? You don't think that because they're wealthy, they understand beauty? They don't understand their wealth? You think that they're just so ignorant, that they're just so, blind, that they get all of this money and they just frivolously throw it around? That is a reflection of Andy. that if she had all of that money, she wouldn't know what to do with it. And she wouldn't appreciate the finer things in life because many people believe that money is corruption and that money corrupts. How many people do you know use the term money is the root of all evil? But I like a great line by a wise rapper named Fonte from Little Brother. He says, they say money change you, but money doesn't change you. It just makes you more what you already are. And that's why poor people hate money. Because what would they do if they had it? They know what they would do. They would excuse their behavior. They would immediately do what they think rich people already do. Ignore the poor. Spend it on pointless things. Become the jerks that they think rich people already are. I watch that all day, every day. Lori says, I knew there was a reason why we got along. We both appreciate Pretty in Pink soundtrack. One of the best soundtracks ever, Lori Math. I love that soundtrack. Let me get to the phones. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Dylan in somewhere in Connecticut. How are you, Dylan?
Hi, and I'm representing the hardworking homeless in Connecticut.
All right.
You sound like an assuming jerk. I know so many homeless who we have a choice. You can have a vehicle. You can provide for your kids. You can save money, which I don't get. Obviously, all right, let me start over. Connecticut.
Wait, Dylan, hold on for a second. I want to start to the first point that you made, okay? You say that I am a jerk for understanding that homeless people. Hold on.
All right. No.
You're calling me a jerk for understanding that homeless people are not a monolith?
Let me get a few things out, though. The high rent prices in Connecticut,
yes.
The massive influx of immigration. My family has been here for 400 years, right?
Okay.
I find a woman, I get married, I have kids. It's much easier for her to kick me out, find somebody richer, and garnish my paycheck. Now I have a choice. I can buy my kids things, I can save money, I can have a vehicle, or I can rent.
But Dylan, stop for a second. Wait. See, Dylan, here's where your problem is. You obviously did not listen to my entire monologue because I heard you.
I've been listening the whole time.
No, you didn't. Let me tell you why I know that you didn't. Because you started off. Dylan, I know that you didn't listen. Let me explain to you why I know you didn't listen. I'll pick you back up in a second. I know you didn't listen because you began talking about I. And if you were listening to my monologue, the one thing I suggested about homeless people is that there is no we. There is the I, that every homeless person is not a monolith. They did not end up that way under some big giant meteor that landed on a group of people and made them homeless. They have independent stories. They have isolated incidents, and they all, in some way, have a responsibility to their own lives, whether it was bad fortune or bad choices, that people are dealing with homeless people like a swath, painted with a broad brush, thinking they can solve the problem that way, that it's rich versus poor, when they don't see people as individuals. And then you call here and say, I. Talk about how I've been here for 400 years, or my people have been here for 400 years, and my situation. You're only echoing what I made. The point that I made is that your homeless situation is absolutely different than all of them. Now, if you're going to sit up here when I pick up the phone and tell me that every homeless person's story is just like yours, which I know you're not, then in essence, you're agreeing with me. And therefore, I ask you to retract calling me a jerk and saying that I'm uninformed. Let's try again.
Can I speak?
Now you can.
Can I speak?
Now you can.
All right, look. When I go to drop my kids off at school, the majority of parents there are non-English speaking. They all have brand new cars.
Okay, I want you to address my monologue, Dylan. Did I say that your story?
I'm saying there are reasons for homelessness in Connecticut.
That's what I said. Dylan,
30 years ago,
Dylan,
you were homeless for a couple of years.
Dylan, you're not listening to what I said. I said my biggest problem with dealing with the homeless crisis anywhere, much less Connecticut, is not understanding that every homeless person's story is independent of the others. Everyone's situation is different. Wait. Of course, you're not talking about that because why would you talk about the subject that I brought up?
I'm talking about the reasons that we are homeless. Wait. Dylan,
Are you suggesting that the reason why you're homeless is exactly the reason why every person in Connecticut is homeless?
It's because of price, yes, the cost.
Oh,
the cost
and you
of
know
living
this?
in Connecticut.
And you
cannot afford to rent.
Okay, why is the reason?
Average rent in Connecticut right now?
Okay, Dylan, let's talk about that. Dylan, let's talk about that.
Why are there so many foreigners here?
Let's talk.
Because they all come here because it's a mecca for foreigners because of the welfare benefits.
Okay, well, wait a minute. If they're having
welfare,
Dylan, you're not listening.
What?
You're not listening.
All right,
so you're missing a grander point. You believe, so this is where I said the problem is that you believe that every homeless person is homeless because of one.
No, I don't believe that.
Thank you. That was
different stories. Many of them are old. Many of them just can't afford it. Do you know? I know a.
Can we applaud this guy finally? Can we applaud him? Thank you. Thank you for arguing with me about something you agree with me on. Dylan, you argued with me for 2 minutes about something that you agree with me on, and which was the central theme of my point.
I agree with you on a lot of things, buddy, but let's talk about the reasons for homelessness.
No. We can't. Listen to me.
Because you're rich. You're bleeding heart for the rich people in Connecticut. I know a lot of rich people, and they did not earn it. It was special circumstances. It was good parents. But now we have people growing up without fathers at all. We want to cultivate the poor in Connecticut. That's what communism is.
Dylan, you're missing.
Dylan,
you're missing a bigger point. You're missing a bigger point. So
if
you listen, I'll tell you. If you were listening,
I live it. You don't live it. You're talking about in the 90s. In the 90s, anybody could get a job in Connecticut. They'll train you for anything. Today, they want free experiences.
Dylan, your passion is shooting you ahead of your skis because I understand that this is your story. No. Relax for a second. I'm in no way am I begrudging you your personal story. I know you do, sir.
For no reason, I'm listening to you.
I know you were. I know you like the show.
I got you,
but what I'm trying to say,
hates me, but go on.
Okay, I understand your point of view. In no way am I trying to. I am no way diminishing or discarding or discounting your point of view on the subject. But you and I are agreeing about something that you're not seeing, and that is my focus of my.
I live in it. You're rich.
No,
you're a rich man. I live in it every day. I'm not. $72,000 last year.
Okay, Dylan, you're missing my grander point, and I got to go to a break in a second. But I want you to hear it before I go to a break. I want you to hear it before I go to a break.
Right,
okay,
I'm listening.
The genesis of all of this were people who were trying to solve problems for the homeless people, seeing them all as the same person, and then making the argument about rich versus poor, not understanding that part of the problem, part of solving any problem, is recognizing every individual person's problem.
You can't say that without the massive influx of immigrants that made everything.
I didn't argue. Wait. Dylan, I didn't argue that there was a mass influx of immigrants. I didn't say that. But what I said was that every person who ended up homeless didn't end up as soon as the mass immigration problem started. They all got there in some form or fashion.
There are so many you wouldn't believe.
I think it's a little broader than that, Dylan. But no. I appreciate the pushback, but it's nice to know you agree with me anyway. Thank you for the call. And good luck. I think the end of the day, he ends up agreeing with me, telling me that everybody's story is an individual story, which is, again, the crux of what I'm talking about. You can't solve the homeless problem with a one-size-fits-all. But every article that's written about it does that. That is my point. And these people who are sitting up here in the chat room saying, well, what about this and what about that? I don't care about any of that. I told you what the problem is. You can't look at a homeless person and talk to them about their accountability. Why? Because if you did, it would take you off of your cause. And that is, how do I victimize them? How did I make them a victim? And how do I get them to get what the villain already has? How do I get from the rich to give to the poor? It's a moral dilemma, but you fail every time. And the homeless stay homeless. I'm trying to give y'all an opportunity to fix it, but you're just too arrogant to listen. You just want it to be the way that you be it. But you know what? That's what conversations are about. And we'll take some more calls, so stick around. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views, and this subject when we return. It's Reese on the Radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. On NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
All right, I've only got 2 minutes, so I want to get the Mark in West Hartford here, and then Rob in Middletown, stand by. I'm going to get you at the top of the hour for the first 3 minutes before we get to another BPS traffic center. So Mark in West Hartford, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, I'll go quick. Hey, Dylan, I hope he's still listening. You know, you're not the only one. I heard your frustration. Reese does that to Tim from Wallingford all the time. He talks over him, doesn't let him finish a point. So you're not alone. So I don't know if he listens on a regular basis what you do to Tim. And I think you owe him an apology, too. Hey, sorry. So listen, real quick. My experience, my observation, my hands-on with the homeless is, probably different. I hear your angle, but here's what's funny is if you asked a wealthy conservative Republican if he was okay with refurbishing or building institutions for the majority, and again, I'm going to generalize, the majority of homeless that I come across, they have mental health issues.
Yes.
They become addicted to drugs and alcohol because that it really is their psych meds.
Exactly.
They don't have a doctor prescribing. They don't have anybody watching them. So, but now when you ask any Democrat woke liberal, are you okay with let's put these people where they belong?
Right.
Which is they need to be cared for, a roof over their heads. They need to be monitored and meds. And of course, we know they're in control in Connecticut, but you will never hear them ever bring up like, hey, we have to do what's right. Now, obviously, we know what happened in the 60s and 70s and even later with institutions. I'm not talking about that. It's 2025.
Right.
You should be able to have it built in a fashion where they're not treated like animals, that they're actually getting treatment and being respected. But you'll never hear them say it.
And they won't.
Ever.
And you know what? That will always be the template, Mark, as to why they do nothing, right? It's like, no, we don't want to build a mental facility because of what happened in the 70s. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why don't we just use if you want to use the 70s as a template, yes, you use it as a template to not do that thing, right? That would be the obvious argument.
Let's not build a car like they built it in the 70s.
Exactly.
Let's not build cars at all because we don't know enough to build it differently.
Can you imagine that?
What a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm throwing. Go ahead, real quick.
So I got 30 seconds. I do got to tell you this. As a tile contractor, the most miserable, unhappy people, my customers that I work for, most unappreciative, are the wealthiest ones. It's always the people who, it's a big deal for somebody with, not the means of the wealthy. And, it's a big deal to have their kitchen renovated or bathroom.
They're counting every dime. They're counting.
They just don't care. So anyway, there is a whole kind of thing. I got a whole different
You got it.
thing.
Anyway, thank you, buddy. You got it. All right, let's get our first check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, man.
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
We're back. Reese on the radio, News Talk 1080. I want to get directly to Rob, but I just want to say before we do, in the next hour, I don't know if you heard the exchange between Megyn Kelly on Sirius and Jake Tapper. The new book, Original Sin, is out today. I've already purchased it and I've at least listened to about 3 chapters of it so far. But I wanted to play that in a little bit, so stand by for that. But as promised, let's get to Rob in Middletown. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Reese? Even if you're given a lot of money, you still got to do a lot of work to keep that money, don't you?
Oh man, it's a constant. Like the work never ends. It doesn't. People think it comes into your coffers and then you're sitting pretty. And I say this, obviously a person who's never had wealth or owned a business or understands what wealth is about, they really see this as like an anomaly. Like they don't understand that it's hard work keeping it. Some people lose it.
Absolutely. A lot of people lose it. I need a prediction from you, brother.
What do you got?
We've seen this dog and Shoney play out down in the dirty city, D.C. There's a lot of wrongdoing that's been going on down there. Who's going to jail? who's getting charged? Is it going to be the same old, or is it going to be different this time?
I think it's going to be different. I think we're going to start to see, and I think for me, I think it's got to be in and around the fall. I think that this is going to be a very productive September, October, and November, right around that time. And the reason why is because you can't do this stuff around Christmas and Thanksgiving. Can't do it around the holiday season. But right after that, then we are going to see evidence start to pour out of like all the corruption that's happened in Washington in the last 4 years. I'm going to get into it a little bit with this Jake Tapper, Megyn Kelly thing that will answer that question, because I think you're making a very, very broad point. What happened with this book, Original Sin, and the books that have come out before, and now all of the investigations, I think that, what's his name? Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, just said that there's going to be a thorough investigation into the actions of the pullout in Afghanistan. That is going to lead into a bunch of other investigations of the last administration that I think by the spring of 26, we're going to see a lot of heads roll. Because if they don't, Donald Trump is a lame duck president.
And I'll give you one prediction. I think by next year, this time, the terrorists are going to be cashing in, filling the coffers, and Trump's going to come out and say no income tax. That locks up the midterm.
That's exactly it. That's what I'm expecting. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Thanks for holding on. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Catarina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, bud.
President of the Chris Murphy Fan Club, Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
By the way, make sure you stick around in the next half hour. We got the stupidest thing I've read today, and of course it involves the president of the, not me, but Chris Murphy. When we return, a conversation that he had with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We'll talk about that in about 30 minutes. So the new book, Original Sin, is out. I purchased it, the audiobook. I always do. I don't have time to sit around and read. God bless you. For those of you who are out there who can sit in front of a book without falling asleep. If I had to read a book, I would fall asleep 9 times before I got to the 3rd chapter. It just happens to me. I don't know what it is, but it's just reading always makes me go to sleep. I think it has a childhood effect. I think, your mom reads you stories when you were a child, or somebody read you a story to put you to bed. I think that's always stuck with me. Anyway, so Jake Tapper is out doing the rounds, and I got to give it to him. It's tough. It's tough to go out there and talk to adversarial news outlets. Jake Tapper, of course, is on CNN, and he's trying to promote this book that reveals what was going on behind the scenes at the White House, where many people have criticized Jake Tapper for carrying water for the former administration. And he did. It goes without saying. Well, Megyn Kelly, she took him to task. Let me start with this, just so you remember. This kind of all began in 2020. Lara Trump, the daughter-in-law of Donald Trump, was on CNN with Jake Tapper, and they were talking about cognitive decline. Yes, as early as 2020.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
It's very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no. I can't. That's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Yeah. So that was him in his own words. That was him in his own words saying that Lara Trump was criticizing his stutter. Well, Megyn Kelly asked him about that. She even played the audio for him.
Jake, the criticism has been that you're complaining about a cover-up about Joe Biden's mental acuity that failed, that right-wing pundits saw, the right wing in general saw, that independent media saw and reported on, and that was no mystery even to left wing and so-called mainstream reporters who were not fooled but chose willful blindness instead of honest reporting, and that you were part of it. How do you respond?
It's a tough and fair question. Look, knowing what I know now, obviously, I feel tremendous humility about my coverage, that Laura Trump interview, for example, et cetera. She saw something that I did not see at the time, 100%. And I own that.
Well, he said that he owned it, but he had to be asked, have you even bothered to contact Laura Trump to apologize to her? Well, it appears he had.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but I thought the conversation went well. And she has said this publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were, I called Laura Trump and I said, you were right.
But Megyn Kelly wasn't going to let him off on that little apology, because Jake Tapper had plenty of opportunity to talk about what was going on with Joe Biden. I mean, he interviewed him twice, and he never brought up anything at all about what Joe Biden was doing and what he looked like on stage for everyone to see. This is Megyn Kelly going after him about plenty of opportunities Jake Tapper missed.
I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
That's true, but I did ask him about his age and the fact that the American people had concluded that even though he said whenever anybody brought up the subject of his age, watch me. And I said, yes, they're watching you and they are concerned that you were too old for this job.
But you know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
Like I said, this was a tough interview for him, but it was worth watching. And it's a lot of stuff that many of us talked about here on the air. It's like, when is this guy going to be held, like with his feet to the fire? Well, Megyn did a lot of that. I haven't even heard most of the interview, but I took them to pieces that were published and that were sent to me. This was the key in all of it. And I think this destroys Jake Tapper's credibility to a fault. Because as you all know, there was a piece by the Wall Street Journal that everyone could see. In fact, if I remember, yes, the article was written on June 5th of 2024. This is less than a month before the debate. The article comes out in the Wall Street Journal. Jake Tapper does not pull in the Wall Street Journal to interview them, but he goes on the air to bash it. Megyn Kelly took him to task on that.
The Wall Street Journal get it in June of 2024, and Jake Tapper and CNN couldn't find sources for this story then before he dropped out?
Annie Linsky and Siobhan Hughes did an amazing job in their reporting, and they should be heralded, and I heralded them. I had them on my show right.
Now listen to that. He talks about the two writers of the Wall Street Journal piece, and he said they should be heralded.
Then before he dropped out?
Annie Linsky and Siobhan Hughes did an amazing job in their reporting. And they should be heralded, and I heralded them. I had them on my show right after the debate to talk about their great reporting. But Annie
After
Linsky,
the debate. But you did not put them on when they published that story, which was before the debate.
correct. I don't know what the booking situation was, but it wasn't because I didn't want them. I'm sure I said day, let's book. I'm sure I said that day, let's book that. Did they?
Yeah, you put on a Democrat, and you allowed the Democrat to rip on the report as a Rupert Murdoch sponsored hit piece.
No.
It's just
Megyn,
that's
Megyn,
what happened.
if we're gonna do this, let's just stick to the facts here, okay?
Now you heard him. Megyn Kelly said you referred to it as a Rupert Murdoch hit piece, and to which Jake Tapper took issue with. Though, if we're going to do this interview, we have to stick to the facts. I'm sorry, Jake Tapper. She was. It was you who was lying.
Quote, behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping, unquote. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp, which is run by the Murdochs. Beyond the headline, there is some critical nuance here. The article is mostly based on observations of Republicans, with former Speaker Kevin McCarthy the only one going on the record.
That's right. He dismissed it as nothing more than a hit piece written by Republicans, blaming it on Rupert Murdoch. Doesn't sound much like heralding of the reporters.
When there is a damaging report.
That's what I've been doing all along.
I'm talking about what you just said.
Didn't miss the biggest story of the century when it comes to presidential politics.
He did. He missed it all. He missed every bit of it. And look, I'm glad that he's out there and he's talking to these people and they're holding him. This is probably, Megyn Kelly's interview is probably going to go gangbusters because the way that she drilled him. Because a lot of people are upset saying that Jake Tapper now trying to play like the truth teller isn't really honest, right? Trying to profit from something he failed to report on CNN, which could have been profitable to him then. It could have been profitable to the network then if he had been honest and not had been the anti-Fox or the anti-conservative network, or for that matter, the anti-conservative correspondent. And look, it's crazy, but I've already gone into the first 3 chapters of the book. Let me tell you this. I'll go this far. Jake Tapper comes off by saying that Joe Biden has been mentally impaired since the death of Beau Biden, according to people close to Joe Biden. They're saying that his cognitive decline was happening before he left office as vice president. Beau Biden died in 2015. Somebody referred to it in the book as when Beau Biden died, it was like pouring hot water on sand. That's what Biden brain became. He was growing more and more incoherent. His sister, who runs the Biden Foundation, also expressed in 2019 that he should not run due to his cognitive decline. They all knew. And this book suggests that there were only 5 people who were in the room. By the way, none of them elected. And those people were the ones who were running the whole outfit. They were the ones in charge of everything. That includes Ron Klain and Anita Dunn and others. All staffers. They said that Joe Biden was nothing more than the chairman of the board, and the White House was being run by these 5 individuals. That's what they're saying in the book. I'm going to get more into it, see if I can find anything else. But that's not the crux of all this. I want to get this out for Democrats, liberals, and especially the progressives. You've got a road ahead of you coming to 2026. And Alex Thompson, who also wrote this book with Jake Tapper, he said something incredibly interesting. Incredibly interesting. Jake Tapper on the back end said something that's true as well, as a quote from David Plouffe, one of the Obama architect, I should say, the Obama campaign manager from 2008. Listen to this.
I mean, a lot of these same Democrats that are now admitting that Joe Biden should not have run again, that he had cognitive decline, there's a lot of tape and posts and tweets, attesting that he was up to this job, not just at the time in 2024, but for 4 more years, which is the job he was going to do. So you are seeing, some try to basically reverse themselves, some try to navigate it, and some just dodging the question altogether. You saw Chuck Schumer on, Casey's show just last week, basically just say, we're looking forward, we're looking forward.
Casey, we're looking forward. We're looking forward.
That's it?
That's it.
One of the things also, John, if I could say that, David Plouffe said to us for the book, never again can we as a party tell voters that they are not seeing what they are witnessing with their own eyes. And I think that's a very important message.
In essence, they're going to have to stop lying. They're going to have to stop lying. And when we come back, of course, Chris Murphy, this guy, he's the Pied Piper of this bull. He just is. When we get to the stupidest thing I read today, this exchange that he had with Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, couldn't be more embarrassing. It couldn't be. It's called, we used to call it, we call it throwing dirt in the game. And the objective is say something saucy and make the accusation be the focal point without having to come up with any evidence. That's what Chris Murphy did in this exchange. We'll play that in a little bit when we come back. But that's a poignant point by David Plouffe. Democrats are going to have to get over that, telling people that they don't see what they actually see. Ostensibly saying the gaslighting has got to end. We'll see. Let's get another check on the weather and traffic with Jason Katarina and Mark Christophers in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, sir.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on
June 2024,
WTIC.
and Jake Tapper and CNN couldn't find sources for this story then before.
Sorry about that. I thought I actually cut that off. That's all right. It happens. Let's get to it.
Do I look that stupid? Yes, you do. Stupid as can be.
This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
So I went looking for this story. Apparently, there is a dinner that is happening that is related to a meme coin for Donald Trump. Dinner, I should say, is happening on Thursday. And I noticed that Chris Murphy was on his X account talking about it as well. And he was speaking in very grand terms about it, saying certain individuals were going to be there, the very wealthy. But he is implying that because these people are foreigners, that these foreigners in some way are going to affect, global affairs in some way. So in a Senate hearing today, he spoke to Marco Rubio. And listen to the way Chris Murphy frames the dinner without framing the dinner.
Let me ask you about the dinner that's happening this Thursday night. The president has offered access to him to the 200 top purchasers of his meme coin. Reports are that maybe about half or more of those individuals who will be meeting with him, many in a VIP reception, are foreigners. Do you have a list of those foreign individuals who will be meeting with the president?
I don't. I don't know anything about it. I didn't even know there was a dinner on Thursday night, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
So you don't know whether any of the foreign individuals who are going to be meeting with the president this Thursday night, for instance, are on our list of sanctioned individuals, or whether any of those individuals have connections to, let's say, terrorist organizations abroad.
Well,
I'm sorry, Chris Murphy, do you have any information on these people and whether or not they're tied to terrorism? Do you?
I think if they had terrorist links, the Department of Homeland Security probably would not have allowed them into the country. But I don't even know there is a dinner on Thursday. You're asking me about something I don't know about.
Well, but listen, this is a dinner that the president is having. It is likely going to involve some very significant foreign interests. You have to.
It probably is. Where's the evidence of that? I went and looked up the thing. It just says it's people who bought the coins. So what? They're foreigners. What does that mean? Because they're foreigners, it means that they're attached at the hip to foreign dignitaries or foreign governments?
That'd be pretty wealthy in order to be able to get inside this dinner. Isn't that
Oh, they're wealthy. Which means if they're wealthy, they're oligarchs. And oligarchs mean government. And government means foreign government. Foreign governments means espionage.
a relevant question for the Secretary of State?
Yeah, I'm not the social
Which foreign
secretary,
interests
so-
are going to be speaking to the president? I mean,
foreign interests?
It's kind of naive to believe that they aren't going to be in that room talking about national security matters.
Oh, it's hard to believe that they're not going to be in that room talking about national security. We don't even know who they are.
Well, I don't think that that's the case at all, because I would be aware if it was the case. The truth of the matter is I interact with government officials and others and governments of other countries. That's what I don't say. You're asking me about a dinner I don't know anything about. I can't answer you because I don't know anything about this dinner. It's the first I heard of it. Like I said, I don't keep the president's social schedule. It's not on my phone. It's not in my pocket. I don't even know. I can't comment on a dinner I know nothing about.
Yeah, I think that represents a real problem for this committee, because there is clearly a way around the State Department for foreign individuals.
Do you understand what throwing dirt in the game is? Right? Imply that something is untoward. But imply that some shenanigans going on. That's all it takes. Doesn't matter if it's happening or not. Just imply it. And then say that Marco Rubio is unresponsive. Such a worm. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic. Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher. Hey, Mark.
The self-proclaimed love child of Rush Limbaugh.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Okay, now look, I'm going to be a cynic here. There's no way you can just get reelected in 2023 and then miraculously, with no warning, resign from office and leaving, June 16th? So a little less than a month. This Ben Florsheim kid, youngest mayor in Middletown's history, went to Wesleyan, clearly a liberal. Am I wrong to say scandal? Am I wrong to say that? I'm just saying. Am I wrong to think that? I can't be. I don't think so. It's quite abrupt. It's quite abrupt. What is he, 33? Yeah, he's about to be 33 at least. He's a baby. My boy was born the same year, 1992. I remember that like it was yesterday. 860-522-WTIC. I'm liking this only calling once a week or once every 2 weeks. Tim is in Hamden. What do you say, sir?
Well, I definitely called about the Rubio-Murphy situation. But first, can I congratulate the people of Mississippi? About 2 months ago, you had a tornado, and there's been no FEMA in there to help you for 2 months. Now, if, other states are getting, so they were looking around going, hey, what about us? Where's the federal response and everything? So congratulations, Trump administrations. You've found a way not to actually do the basic job of government. If there's a disaster, go in and help the people. Okay? So that's something you will not hear on Niagara Radio.
Listen, I don't want to even, let me tell you something. I am so interested in stomping on that nonsense you just said. Like, I want to beat it to the point where you get angry.
Oh, beat it, because it's
No. But I don't want to talk about
Tim
Mississippi
wrong. Prove
since
Tim
we're.
wrong.
No, I can prove you wrong. Trust me. We're not talking about Mississippi. You said you wanted to address the Chris Murphy Rubio thing. Let's talk about Chris Murphy and Rubio.
Chris Murphy. Yeah,
Tell me what it
definitely.
is. Tell me what it is you'd like to defend of Christoph Murphy.
First off, I am not defending Chris Murphy whatsoever. I ran somebody against him. I have nothing to do with him whatsoever. Yes, he's running for president. It's as obvious as anything, and he's trying to make his bones on that and be a leader of the Democratic Party. But what you are not talking about is the fact that we've got a president who's essentially monetizing the office in order to make money for himself.
Okay.
Okay. If you Why would any president create something that's going to make you and your family more money and everything? The guy's a billionaire, Trump. He makes $500,000 a year.
That he
so
donates.
He's got these schemes going. Pardon me?
That he donates.
Okay, so he's a billionaire. So yeah, he can do that.
Make the
But
argument
again,
instead of you're making a lot of sidebars, but make the argument. You said that he is enriching his family by selling something.
Yeah, the people.
Is that your problem?
If you did the research, did the research into this goal,
I did.
Okay, but you didn't even know anything about it till
actually I did
2 seconds ago.
No, actually I did.
Okay, all right. So you're lying. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
No, actually,
right.
no.
This
I knew
is
exactly
about,
what it was he did. But what I'm talking about is what Chris Murphy was talking about. I knew nothing about, and here's what I'm talking about because obviously you don't listen well. But we're gonna clear up
exactly. But
Tim,
take a
stop
different
talking.
Point of view.
I need you to listen. Starters, what Chris Murphy is talking about is nonsense. There are no foreign dignitaries who are invited out of these 250 people who are going to this dinner on Thursday. Are there, Tim?
According to
Tim,
CNBC,
I'm going to stop you and just ask
CNBC,
you.
That's different.
Do me a favor. Answer the question. Are there any foreign dignitaries who are going to be at this meeting on Thursday? Yes or no? It's 220 people. It's 220.
According to CNBC. That is
okay. Thank you. So
75%.
according to CNBC, they say foreign dignitaries are going to be there. So if you, who seem to know more than I do, whom did CNBC says was a foreign dignitary who is going to be there? Name
and they
the
talked
dignitary.
about various wealthy, super rich people. Yes,
I said foreign
oligarchs.
dignitaries, not rich people.
Okay.
That's two different
good
things.
One. You stung me. You stung me so bad. Oh, that's terrible.
No.
It's
are there any government? Wait a minute. Are there any government agencies or
it's kinda
government
hard to
officials?
Say, if you are controlling, controlling interest and stuff, they want people. You think that
who are the
people
government?
Are there,
who involved in a foreign government is going to be at this dinner on Thursday? Tim, can you name them?
Come on, be real. Foreign people can't donate to the president.
Thank you.
So this is a way.
Stop for a second. I'm done. I'm done with going through the nonsense with you because you're getting frustrated because you can't answer the question I'm asking you.
You're
So
not
don't,
listening.
Tim. Stop getting frustrated.
Stop
getting frustrated.
Overtalk
no,
me.
sir. I want you to stop filibustering about nonsense.
Is anybody going there? Do you think that anybody going there expects to have some influence with Trump or not?
Stop, and I will answer your question because you're running all over the place because you can't stay focused. This is what libs do. When they lose a point,
cut it out with the personal attack.
When you lose
That's really bad.
when you lose a point, you run over to the next one. So stop.
When you don't answer the point back.
I was already answering the point,
influence.
but you then jump to another. So I'm going to answer all of them for you because I can stay consistent. One, you can't name one foreign dignitary who's going to be at this dinner out of 220 who are going to be there. I understand it's actually more than 240, but you can't name one foreign dignitary who's going to be there.
They're listed on the CNBC article.
Sir, I was talking, and you said that we keep talking over each other, so stop talking. There are going to be 240 dignitaries who are going to be there. They're foreign. Oh, sorry, there were going to be foreign dignitaries there, but nobody can seem to name one foreign dignitary. They can't seem to mention a president. They can't seem to remember a chief of staff. They can't seem to remember what or to even name what foreign country those people are going to be, even though there is a list of 240 people who have invested in this meme coin that you can't seem to name, and neither does CNBC. But let's go
and you're so naive, you don't think that they want something?
I am going to
finish. Are you actually telling me that they don't want anything?
I'm going to finish my point. Again, speculating that I don't think that they're going to want something is not the evidence of a crime. You're suggesting no. What you're trying to do is what we call circumstantial. You're saying they bought a meme coin and they're rich. So apparently they want something, a quid pro quo. They must, because there's no other way to, Tim, because there's no other way to look at it. See it my way, because the president is a criminal. I'm not going to parse this, and I'm not going to be straight down the middle. I'm not going to call balls and strikes. I'm just going to assume the nature of the people who are going to be there and the president of the United States, and I'm going to make large jumps to certain circumstances of the dinner that hasn't even taken place yet, and the person that you can't name who's going to be there. The only thing you've been able to do is what's called the usual soundbite, Oh, they're wealthy, so it must mean they're evil, and Donald Trump is involved, which also means
I
that
didn't
it's
say
evil.
that.
But here's the thing. The event is
I
public.
didn't say that.
Let
and
me
you
go.
didn't give me a chance.
Let me go one
You
step.
didn't give me a chance to
Let me
respond
go
to
one
you.
step further. I'll go one step further.
If I can respond later.
When you can. Let me go one step further. It isn't about having any of the facts. It's about assumption, which is exactly what I'm not done, which is exactly what Chris Murphy did. Chris Murphy is questioning Marco Rubio about a dinner that he knows nothing about, that he's not associated with. And Chris Murphy on that dais implied that because those people are wealthy, those people have evil intent. Because that dinner, even with names that he does not know, he is injecting the idea that something nefarious is going on. You know it, CNBC knows it, and everybody knows it. While it is on the up and up and being publicly announced that this dinner is taking place. But I'll go one step further. And this is where it gets ugly. And this is where people have no credibility. Donald Trump sold a meme coin. Donald Trump owns international hotels across the globe. Donald Trump is a businessman who has become a billionaire. He actually has actual things he sells, be it steaks or ties or water. But there are actual tangible things that this businessman actually sold before he became president of the United States, and his family runs said business. Hunter Biden is a crackhead. Joe Biden owned and sold nothing. Do not cut me off. Hunter Biden sold nothing. Joseph Biden sold nothing. They had nothing whatsoever. They sold access and they made millions of dollars for it. And y'all told us to look the other way and take it on the chin and stop making it a big issue. So I'm going to say this. Until you find that until you can find that thing that Hunter Biden was selling, oh, by the way, crack will not be an acceptable answer. Then you can tell me that Donald Trump, who is vocally and publicly having a dinner with cryptocurrency buyers while it's all out in the press, there's nothing clandestine about this, then you can call back. But other than that, you're blowing smoke up my...
You're not going to let me finish, are you?
No, absolutely not.
You're not going to let me finish.
No, absolutely not. Because you're just blowing smoke and you're defending something that you can't. Here, Tim, let me help you. Call back when you have one name of the 240 people who are going to be there. Just one. Get me one smoking gun. Don't call up here half-ass. Get me one smoking gun. How about wait until Friday after the dinner and then tell me the foreign dignitary who was there and you saw Donald Trump getting an envelope underneath the table? Until then, stop it. You're boring me. Do you not understand what's at stake here? Everything you guys call and scream a 5-alarm fire for turns out to be false. It always turns out to be a joke. Nothing you've ever said has come to fruition. Nothing. Everything you've screamed and cried wolf about has turned out to be a nothing burger. And you still don't get it. You guys still call up these shows and you go, I've got them now. And why? Why are you here? The reason why you're here is because of a story you heard on CNBC, the same station that promotes Jim Cramer. Are you kidding me? The same network that promotes Adam Sorkin or Andrew Sorkin, whatever his name is. You guys are kidding me. CNBC, when's the last time they broke a story? Ever. What, the collapse of the market in the 90s? Greg's in Farmington. How are you, Greg? Greg, you there? Yeah, Greg, you're breaking up. I'll try you back in a second. Stay on the line. Let's go to Peter in Canton. Hey, Peter.
How you doing?
I'm good, Peter. How are you?
Oh, my God, that was so entertaining. I sat there giggling and laughing the whole time. Every time Tim calls, I get the biggest grin on my face. He's the best thing for your... He makes me remember why I love being a Republican. It's amazing.
I don't understand why it's like, I'll put it this way. You remember have you ever gone fishing, Peter?
Yes.
And do you remember the old saying when you go out, you say, hey, how are they biting? And they say they're biting fine. That's the Democrat Party today and the Democrat media. They know they have an active biting audience. They just throw the chum out there and they jump on it.
Great. I love when he calls because I just sit there. I don't even have to listen to his words, his tone, and his anger. And it's just like, it's so entertaining. I just laugh. It's great.
It's the for me, it's the arrogance. I'm sorry. What's your message to Tim?
You can hang out with us, Tim. You can become a Republican. We'd love you to come into our circle. We know you want to be a Republican. You're just afraid to come. Come on in. Come to our corner. We'll welcome you in, Tim. You can hang out with us.
Come on in. The water's warm.
Exactly.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. It's sad, but look, it's the constant, the jumping out a window on a story that's meaningless. And it's crazy because when I first saw Chris Murphy talking about it a week ago on his X account, I went to go find the interest in this story, and it was none. And then Chris Murphy started talking about it, and other people tried to make a story of it. But no one had any concrete evidence on anybody who was going to be there. And it was the same old tropes. Rich, wealthy, Trump. So it involves money, it must be. Rich, oligarch, evil. That's it. And it's so easy for these bozos to bite on it because they're so desperate. He could have called about anything else. Inflation. He could have called about the big giant gold dome that we're going to build to stop ballistic missiles from coming into the country. He could have been talking about, Robert F. Kennedy on the Senate, Christy Nomes, Abrego Garcia. He could have been talking about anything. He could have talked about the arrest or the pending arrest of the congresswoman who was pushing ICE agents. He could have talked about anything. Instead, he talked about a Bitcoin dinner. And the assumption, that something devious is definitely going to go on. And when it doesn't, will there be any apology for it? Of course not. Move on to the next CNBC scandal. Typical. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, buddy.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
I'm getting all of these messages from so many people about what's going on with Florsheim in Middletown. I've got some investigative work happening there to find out. Someone sent me a message about what's going on there in Middletown. I got to confirm it. Because if that story's true, that is huge. I hope that the person who sent me that message is kidding with me, just pulling my leg. But if that story's true, huge. I'm telling you, huge. And we'll get into that. Also, in that exchange with Tim, Zach, thank you for this message. He said the problem with the argument about the Trump coin is that the contest for the dinner was announced after the coin already launched. There is a limited supply. These guests bought their coins from other holders, not from Trump. The only money Trump makes is if the coin value goes up. It has nothing to do with everyday purchases. So this, again, misstating what's going on in an effort to associate Trump with millionaires, which is, again, what Chris Murphy wants to do. That's the importance of all of this. Chris Murphy wants to say, Donald Trump, isn't that his whole thing? Donald Trump is catering to his, MAGA billionaires and trillionaires and his rich and wealthy friends. The dinner comes out, and that's what you do. You start telling everybody, see, this is what I'm talking about. Now, Chris knows he could have, any other time Chris Murphy is on that dais, what does he do? Does he have an exchange? No, he filibusters. He could have laid out who was going to be there, who the culprits were, let the entire country know. See, this guy is this, that, and the third. This guy's associated with terrorists. This guy's associated. He had nothing. And the reason why he had nothing is because he does have nothing. And Chris Murphy's a worm. I'm sorry. You get mad at me, but he's a worm. That's what he does. He's absolutely nothing honest about him. He takes care of himself. That's it. And when you're a worm, you say things like that. You throw dirt in the game with no evidence to back it up. He could have told anyone and everyone who any of those 240 people were who were associated with terrorism. But he can't because he's a worm. Another check of the weather and traffic with Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Drop it.
In this hour, we got to talk a little bit about Bernie Sanders. He's dropping a couple of jewels on the Democrat Party. We'll get into that a little bit. Thank you, Michael, for staying on for a while. Michael is in Higginham. Hello, Michael. How are you?
How are you, Reese?
I'm great.
Great. Love listening to you all day during work, and you and Tom Shattuck get me through my day. But I was just curious. I'm a couple years younger than you. Have you ever watched Sesame Street?
Yeah, sure. Actually, Sesame Street came out in November in the year of my birth, November of 1969.
Do you know the character Grover?
Of course.
On there?
My mother loved Grover.
Well, the thing is Tim sounds exactly like Grover. And I would encourage people to look up Grover and think of Tim, and they'll make the connection.
Yeah, some people say he sounds a little like Kermit, but I think you're onto something here.
Yeah, I think he's more Groverish.
I think you're 100% right. I think you're right on point there.
He's Grover with the attitude of the guy that lives in the trash can.
Well, you think he's a grouch. I don't listen. I'll tell you what it is. This whole thing about Tim, I've never seen anyone get so irate about being called a leftist or a progressive. And again, I don't do it to annoy him. But the bottom line is he says, I'm the Green Party. And I'm like, which is what? I mean, it's like a finger on a hand, right? It's like, what are you talking about? You're on the, if your contention is with conservatism and Republicans, you're a leftist. There is no two, but they're trying to parse themselves from a particular group to say that, I'm not a liberal, but I'm just a progressive. I'm like, yeah, you're just one extreme of the same thing. That's all it is. I don't know what to say to him other than that.
I always enjoy listening to his calls. I love him as a caller.
I hope that I wish that he would stop thinking that the news cycle escapes me in some way. Like I walk in here and I just go, I'm gonna sling it from the hip today. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you, sir.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you, man. You too. All right. Now, I'm taking this call, but I'm going to say it with a caveat. Yeah, the regular folks, so you know, it's nothing against you guys. It's just that we get often we get a lot of complaints that we take a lot of the same callers. I know that everybody wants to come in and opine, but spread it out a little bit so that some new callers can get in. Okay, because we want to hear from some new people and people who don't get a chance to call all the time. So that's why if you hear me keep you on, if you call a lot and you're on for a long time, it's because we're trying to change up the monotony. Okay, that's all it is. It's nothing personal. Some people have responded saying, "It was hey man, I haven't talked to you in a week and a half," because you talk every day to me. So it's kind of like just to spread it out a little bit, give some other people an opportunity. Now, that being said, a good friend of mine, because it's going to sound like I'm giving him preferential treatment, but he's always interesting, and I kind of feel like he's got his own feature on the show. White Mike is on the show. That's why I say his name that way. White Mike in Florida. What's going on, big guy?
Oh, man. Well, I do try to keep it interesting. I hope that
you do. No. I'm sorry. I apologize. If you think that you're lumped up in the non-interesting category, you can forget about that. So, yeah, you always come in with some good stuff.
So an incident happened this weekend, and the reaction to it made me think that
a lot of black people are really just kind of mean and stupid.
Wow. Please tell me. Are you talking about the jailbreak or something else?
No, something else. Same state, though.
Okay.
Over the weekend, the nation's oldest surviving antebellum plantation home burned down.
Oh, wow.
Outside Baton Rouge.
Okay.
Right. And this thing had been since the 1850s. It was complete. It was a beautiful home in the small town of White Castle, Louisiana.
Wow.
Now, White Castle realistically has nothing going on except this plantation home,
okay,
which is a destination. Right? People have weddings there and parties and things. It's a big fancy deal.
Mm-hmm.
White Castle is 90% black.
Okay.
All right. So one would assume that a lot of the black residents of this town were dependent on this home for their livelihood.
Right. To a degree that this is
there.
the tourism, exactly. Working there, making tips, disposable income, that whole bit.
You know, somebody in town has a gas station. They get tourist dollars.
Sure.
You know, there's hotels. And the amount of glee and joy among black people who don't live there that this place burned down this weekend was sickening. It was all this stuff like the ghosts of the ancestors have spoken and F those crackers. And I'm thinking, moron, the person who owned that is going to get paid.
Right.
Because they have insurance.
Sure they do.
You know who's not getting
Nope.
Poor Festus who mowed the lawn.
That's right. And again, you know what? This is hold on. Now this is this is indicative of Freddie Gray. I remember this vividly as you were telling this story, and I know you and I talked about this during the time that it happened.
Oh yeah.
When Baltimore went up in flames, CBS had talked to people in the neighborhood. They talked to a boyfriend and a girlfriend in Baltimore after the city had burnt down, and the two individuals there were talking about, or at least the reporter was asking about, come on, you guys burnt down your whole neighborhood. There's no gas station. There's no CVS here. Nothing is here. No business is coming back to this area. What do you think about that? Like, this was a result of people who rioted and destroyed the community who now can't afford the gas to even, the gas that they were paying for down the block. Now they have to waste gas another town over to get gasoline in order to go to work. Yep. What do you say to that? And their response was, well, the city better build more gas stations back in the neighborhood. I'm like, who would?
Yeah.
Who would?
And these people were saying, well, maybe we'll get a grocery store. I'm like, nobody's building the grocery store in a 90% black town.
No.
It doesn't happen.
And
nobody's doing it because they know what's going to happen. They're going to get robbed blind. And, maybe it'll turn into development. But nobody wants to live in White Castle, freaking Louisiana.
I still can't believe that there's a town called White Castle, Louisiana.
Yeah, White Castle, Louisiana. So,
hold on.
They
well, of course, it
it
begs the obvious question, Mike. Does White Castle, Louisiana, have a White Castle restaurant there? Please say it does. Please say it does.
Probably not, but I bet you there's the churches.
You know what? I'm just going to give you the applause anyway. I'm going to give it to you. You earned it.
All right, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
It.
You got it. Yeah, now I got to find out if there's a White Castle in White Castle. There has to be. Someone had to put a White Castle restaurant in White Castle, Louisiana. Who wouldn't do that? Baton Rouge, by the way, that town is tough. Oh, my goodness. Roland, please tell me you spent some time in Baton Rouge, at least driving through it. It's a rough town, ain't it?
What do you mean by rough?
Okay, so there's a guy by the name of Silky Slim that used to do a Sunday show on one of the Baton Rouge hip-hop stations. And he's an activist. You've probably seen him. He was very prominent in the, what's his name? Trayvon Martin situation. He was always somewhere. But he's from Baton Rouge. He's a former gangbanger who turned his life over and is trying to get the gangs, sort of quelled down. He's no effort to do that. But he tells me that Baton Rouge is really, really bad. Like, it's, like, kind of really, really bad. It's like hood.
Yeah. I mean,
no.
If you're not from around there,
it could get rough.
It looks really, really bad.
Yeah,
it's definitely not visually
appealing.
Appealing.
Wow.
But
now, how far is that away from? Because you're from New Orleans, right?
Yeah, 45
Okay.
minutes.
About 45 minutes. That's not far at all.
Yeah, it's by LSU.
Yeah, exactly. But that's sad that LSU is, it's a really, really good school. I guess the campus is beautiful.
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
opposed to the town.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's sad.
I mean, it's like, if you think about it, a lot of big. If you look at all the, football stadiums, they're all in not the best neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's a good point. Probably because the real estate's so cheap.
Is that why?
That's usually why.
Oh.
That's why Kmart's biggest problem was that people always forget this about why Kmart went out of business. Kmart used to be everywhere, but they were in the worst neighborhoods because the real estate was so cheap. And then what happens? They were in these horrible neighborhoods. They suffered a lot of loss. It's always P&Ls, profit and loss. And if the people were not, like suburbanites would not travel all the way to some of these communities to go to Kmart. So the more they built, the more they suffered, right? So then when the property values, although they were down and people weren't going to those communities because of fear of theft, violence, and other things like that, Kmart started losing a lot of its wealth. And sure enough, they went bankrupt. Toys R Us was also the same deal. Actually, Toys R Us's biggest problem was, direct ship, Amazon and things like that.
Yeah.
There was no reason to go into the stores. But Kmart's biggest problem was they were in the worst of neighborhoods.
Yeah, I don't think Toys R Us were in the worst neighborhoods. I knew I used to go to a lot of different Toys R Us, and they were in nice areas. So
I've only seen two. I saw one in Canada and one in Texas. And the Texas one is a outlet store. And the one in Canada is that because the people who bought it are actually in Canada. It's right in the Canada side of Niagara Falls.
Yeah, the couple of ones that they had in Connecticut, they weren't in. One of them was in West Farms Mall.
Yep,
across the street. So
that's right.
That's not like it wasn't in a bad area.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then you know what? That's the Toys R Us is supposed to be that experience. You're supposed to go into a Toys R Us, and it's supposed to be like it's like going to FAO Schwartz in New York. I don't know if you've ever been there. Have you ever been there? Okay, that's an experience. We'll talk about that sometime. Let me take James in Durham real quick before we go to a break. Hey, James, how are you?
I'm doing good, Reese. I wasn't going to call, but then all of a sudden I heard that guy call in and refer to Tim from Hamden as Grover from Sesame Street, and that cracked me up like anything. Okay, but not only that, for all the years that I've been listening to the radio shows and everything, and every time Tim is called in, there's only one thing that ever went through my mind when I heard him.
Who's that? What's
and
that?
Besides deranged Democrat, and Tim, I know you're listening, and you are a Democrat. Never mind that green stuff. You vote for all the Democrats.
That's right.
Except for some greenies in Hamden. You vote for them, but you vote for Connecticut Democrats. That being said, Reese.
Yes.
Do you remember back in the early 80s, you remember Frank and Moon Zappa?
Sure.
Had the song Valley Girl?
Yes.
I refer to Tim as Moon. And no insult to Moon Zappa.
Right.
Because I am one of Frank's biggest fans. I've been a fan of his since the early 70s. But anyways, I refer to, every time he comes on the radio, I hear, in my mind, I hear Moon Zappa. Because in that song, her character was, oh my God, totally, for sure.
Yes.
Oh my God. And when every time you or Tom answer the phone, he doesn't get to his point. It's just, oh my God, this or whatever.
It's such dramedy. That's what it is. It's dramedy.
Yeah, it's all drama.
Yep.
It's all drama.
Indeed.
And Tim, you're not fooling anybody. Like Tom tells you, and like Reese tells you, when you call in, have the facts laid out first.
Yes.
Never mind like jumping ship. Every time one ship sinks, jump to the next ship.
Yes.
Jump to the next ship. Jump to the next ship.
That's such a good point. That's exactly what it is. Is jumping from one ship to the next, and he never goes back to apologize for the last calamity that he was screaming or
the last failure.
Yeah.
I call it failure.
Yeah.
The last failure.
Good.
And that is a word that I use for the idiot senator known as Chris the Failure Murphy.
Wow.
That guy could never bring up anything factual. All he has is speculation.
Yep. And innuendo.
Innuendo and stupidity.
Indeed.
Stupidity. Chris Murphy, do you, as the senator from the state of Connecticut, and I'm putting this out to the Chris Murphy's people that listen to this show and report back to him. Chris, or actually, maybe let me be respectful. Senator Murphy, Mr. Murphy, do you want to do something for the people of the state of Connecticut?
That's a good point. I got to go, though, sir. Thank you, James. I apologize. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christophers in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, man. You aren't too bad. Okay, so I'm doing some stuff behind the scenes, and I apologize, folks. I literally got caught off guard. So the Middletown Press, back in December of 2021, wrote this article. Middletown mayor marries college sweetheart in intimate ceremony. This is about Florsheim. So, I got this tip that said, I'm not going to say what it said. I'm sorry that I'm not, for legal reasons, I couldn't. Unless it was confirmed, and until it's confirmed, I'm not saying anything. But like I said, if it's true, wow. But I'm not going to get into that. But I am going to get into what was and is published. Okay. So Middletown mayor marries college sweetheart in intimate ceremony. There's a picture of Florsheim, Mayor Ben Florsheim with Gabriella DeGolia. They celebrated their wedding day on November 12th in a small ceremony held at their home in Middletown. And so I went, oh, that's a cute picture of the both of them. I wonder who she is. So I was just, belly Huey, messing around. And I'm looking, and apparently she has her own website. And let's just say she teaches a lot of things on her website. Here are some of the things that she holds trainings for: ancestry, astrology, heavens, bodies, Buddhism, Christianity, death, dying, devotional rituals, worship, disability, neurodivergence, dreams, trance, earth, land, myths, folklore, politics, liberation, queerness, gender, sexuality, spiritual care, companionship, tarot, divination or divination. Never even heard that, so I wouldn't even know how it was pronounced. 12-step recovery, witchcraft, magic, yoga. They're in alphabetical order. There's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. But I was looking at the website, and, there was just a lot of talk about, let's just say, transitional things. I thought that was a little interesting. Then there's a lot of transition stuff on the website. There is. There's just a lot of talk about it. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to presume anything. But I just want to make sure I got this right. So Middletown. Just so I know. Middletown. This is what we're doing now? Middletown is this what we're doing? What am I to make of this? I have to do more digging. Because of this website, I have no choice. And I'm in a rabbit hole. Not of my choosing. But I think we need to get one more person on this. I got Mark in West Hartford on it. We need to get one more. We need one more researcher on this right now. Something's going on, and I want to get to the bottom of it. We'll find out. Get my crack team of investigators. It's Speaking of crack team, we've got a crack team in the BPS Traffic Center with Jason Catarina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center.
What's up, everybody? You know who it is. You know who it is. You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
In my hand is a $175 brown pair of Florsheim shoes. And I knew I had them somewhere. I was looking over here in my office, and I said, I know I have some Florsheim shoes. And I was listening, reading the story on Ben Florsheim, the soon-to-be former mayor of Middletown. And I was like, I wonder if he's related to the Florsheim family. Of course, a lot of people have that name, but you always assume it's like, hey, I wonder if he is. Turns out, indeed, Ben is. And you're right, Michael A. He went to Wesleyan, which makes sense about his wife with the witchcraft thing. But I dated a girl who went to Wesleyan. I did. That's into Buddhism and all the spiritualities and all that stuff. The Wiccan. I don't know, whatever it is. But yeah. So $175 I paid for these things. I'll admit, I'm not a Gators guy. I don't know who those people are. What's the most expensive money you ever paid on shoes, on Roland, if you can remember? Because I know you're not much of a
dress shoes.
Yeah, dress shoes. I know when you say shoes, you have to be, you have to distinguish between which one. Like dress shoes that you would wear with a suit or a pair of slacks. What's the most money you ever spent?
Probably like $80.
Damn. Really?
Yeah, well, I worked at Kenneth Cole for a while.
So yeah.
I used to get them at a discount. They used to be like, I got 50% off everything in the stores.
Okay,
so
well, that makes sense.
It'd be like $150 or $160, and I'll get it for $80.
I will definitely say that this is the most expensive shoe I've ever bought. It's a $175 shoe.
Oh, that's cheap.
I just that's mean-spirited. What do you mean it's cheap? It's not cheap.
All the J's I buy is $250.
Yeah, but see, you buy sneakers and I get that old stuff. I'm talking about dress shoes. This is the most expensive I've ever paid.
Yeah.
I would never spend $200-$300 on a pair of shoes. Never. I would have to put them in plastic bags so that they don't get scuffed up or dirty.
What my uncles, they used to all wear Stacey Adams and Gator
Oh
boots
yeah, I would never touch that stuff.
And all that. They used to pay a lot of money for their shoes.
They did. I know they did. I would never do it. And trust me, it took a lot for my wife to convince me. These were the shoes I wore at my wedding. And I looked, if you've ever seen my wedding picture, folks, the suit that I am wearing, I spent a sum on that. And for most of you, it's probably nothing. It's probably a penance. But to spend $175 on a pair of shoes, for me, that was the worst. I was like, no. She was like, get the shoes. I'm like,
that's very, very surprising.
What, for her or for me?
No, for you to spend $175.
Yeah, no kidding.
Shoes.
I'm a miser. I can't justify that. Lori says sneakers can cost more than dress shoes. They do, but that's the reason why I don't buy. Come on, I'm wearing a pair of Under Armour. Before my wife got me wearing Under Armour sneakers, I was wearing New Balance. And the most I ever paid for those, $80. And we're talking about brand new. Usually, I would spend $60 on a pair of sneakers. I promised one time that if a pair of sneakers cost more than $70, I wasn't paying for them.
You, now, some certain New Balances are $150.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's why I don't wear them anymore.
And the Under Armour, Steph Curry then made that.
Yeah.
$200.
That's exactly what happens. As soon as the celebrity endorsement comes in, I'm out. I will put on a pair of canvas Pro Kids nowadays, and then I find out that somebody else is endorsing them. I'll stop wearing them. So
you go to Walmart and get you the $20 Bobos.
I should go down there and get one of those. You know what's actually is a really, really good place to go, and then we'll get to the phone calls. This I do all the time because I don't run, I don't do anything active, so I don't have to really get active wear. If it's got a rubber sole and it looks good enough, I'll go down to the Bloomingdale's outlet, right? Or the, what's that other place that has the outlet? Neiman Marcus, one of those places. And they'll have a pair of fancy shoes with the white sole that look like running shoes, but they're not. but they were like the rejects from Kenneth Cole or the rejects, like, do you know the reject shoe from whatever? Yeah. And if they look nice enough, I'll just wear those. I don't care. I'm not in a fashion. Like, I'm not a fashion model. If somebody walked up to me and says, yo, man, what you doing with them reject Kenneth Coles? I would look at them and go, you've got nothing better to do with your life than to be paying attention to my shoe wear. Like, I'm not in high school anymore. I'm a 55-year-old man. That means nothing to me. If it looks nice and I can pair it with some jeans, I'll do that. I'll do that.
What is your normal shirt top? Is it just a t-shirt or
t-shirt and jeans?
T-shirt
I'm not.
and jeans,
Now,
okay.
I'll wear a polo. I'm a good polo guy, but I'm starting to notice that I took a picture. In fact, when we had dinner with Jerry from Between Rounds, he took some pictures of myself with Roseanne. I'm sorry, Roseanne looked like a kid next to me. I am hulking and huge. She is this little diminutive person, and I'm huge, towering over her like some giant. I look like an ogre. It's like Shrek meets like Goldilocks. It's like I'm huge, staggering over. And so I'm looking at myself with this polo shirt on, and I'm going, can you do something with that? I almost want them to Photoshop it. So I don't wear a lot of, like, when I look really good is when I wear a suit and tie.
Yeah, okay.
That's when I look fantastic. I can't.
Okay.
I can't. I don't know. Now you're just bringing me down a rabbit hole. So that's I'm in a bad place right now.
All right, I'm going.
No problem. I have to think about that all the time. All right. If you want to, we will make you the last but not least caller of the day. You will win a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe. Let's get to those phones now. Let's start with Steve, who's in Haddam. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. What do you got for me today, sir?
Okay, a little culture shock on shoes. I'm an avid outdoorsman and a hunter. I buy special boots to go hunting with for duck hunting or deer hunting. You're not going to guess the dollars. If you're within $100 of the price that I pay, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
$450.
I'm going to say that if you go hunting in these shoes, they've got to be not only incredibly durable, but they've got to be waterproof. They've got to be insulated with some sort of like NASA-type fabric that you can only get on the planet Neptune. I'm going to say that those shoes are in or around $2,000.
$1,000 is for the waders to go hunting.
Okay.
Those are the special duck. Those will go $1,000 for the high-end ones. But the shoes are $450.
$450 for just shoes. Now
I told you $450.
And then if you go for the mountain variety, the mountain insulated ones, those are $750.
Holy moly. Do you mind if I ask? I don't know if we're giving them any free promotion, but what's the brand, if I may ask?
Kenetrek. They're made out in the West Coast, and they're like absolutely the best.
So I'm assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Steve, is the reason for the price because they are a small specialty brand? Because I've noticed that in some of these brands that are popular amongst the enthusiasts, usually they're at that high end because, one, they don't sell like they're not, like Nike or, Timberland. They're niche. So the prices sort of have to match the supply, so to speak.
Well, they are niche, but they have competitors too. There's other brands that compete, but and you have loyalists to different brands.
Right.
Some are made in Europe and things like that. Some use special materials. But once you wear them and use them, you're like, you understand what the value is.
How long does a pair of the $450 shoes, how long can a pair like that last?
A couple of years. I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
hard surface.
Now that
mine are about 2.5 years old.
See, that I can get on board with because I'll be honest with you, I've got a pair of sneakers now that I'm almost certain are a little more than 5 years old. Just regular walking shoes that I kept for like 5 years. Now, if anybody else would have asked me, it's like, you still have them? I was just like, yeah, I keep them. I have actually a pair of Converse. I have a gray pair of Chuck Taylors that I still haven't worn, and my wife bought them for me 3 years ago. I still haven't worn them. They're just sitting around. because again, like I said, my footwear I'm not all that big about. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate the call. That's it's good to know that there are some enthusiasts out there, like real enthusiasts. I didn't even know. Let's go to Evan. What's going on, Evan?
Hey, I'm wondering why you and your listeners aren't up in arms about this Republican tax bill.
You talking about the big beautiful bill?
I am.
What's wrong with it?
Well, so it's going to add somewhere between $3.5 and $6 trillion to the debt, with the overwhelming majority of that going to multimillionaires and billionaires. So
Okay, there's no
do we need that?
No, okay, I understand that the part that you said at the end was exactly where you went off the beaten path. That is a talking point that is media driven. But the first part,
it's not. I prepare tax returns for a living, and I've been doing.
Have you seen the big? Wait,
2018 bill.
Have you seen the big beautiful bill in its entirety yet, sir?
Yes.
No, there's no
Yes.
way. Hold on. There's no way you did. That's a lie. There's no way you did. There's
Of
no
course
way
I
you
have.
did. It hasn't
They
been.
said
No.
They said it's a permanent. They said it's a permanent extension of the 2018 bill, which I've been doing 400 plus returns a year on since.
So Evan, stop for a second. See, this is where this is
So
exactly.
are they lying? Are they lying? And
Evan,
it's not that?
Evan, stop for a second. Did you hear the speech today at Capitol Hill? Not even speech, the press conference that the president had at Capitol Hill today when he was walking through the halls. Did you hear any of it? I did. I watched all four of them.
What did he say? Did he say the bill's not that?
No, that's actually not what he said. What he said was that there were still compromises being made. There hasn't even been a vote on the current state of it because there are changes being made. And to suggest that you've seen the bill and then answer the question by saying it's an extension of an old bill means you haven't read the new one.
I've seen the bill that went through committee. You haven't?
Wait. You saw the bill that went through committee, and when it went through committee, and what's the one thing that has to be done outside of committee in order for it to get passed by the House? What's the thing that has to happen?
Excuse me, did you see the bill that went through committee or not?
Again, I'm going to say it to you one more time. Just answer my question. What has to happen before the Republicans vote on it in the House? What has to happen?
You tell me.
Oh, I thought you'd know. You should know. They are working on rewriting the bill so that there
What would you like them to rewrite?
I didn't say anything. This isn't my point. It's yours. And the point is that you're talking about a bill that it still has to be written in order for it to be presented and voted on.
So why aren't you guys
Because
up in
it
arms with the way it came
hasn't
out of
been
committee?
written. You're asking me to be outraged about the final
No,
process that
I'm
hasn't
asking-
happened.
I'm asking you to say what you want the rewrites to be.
Okay,
Don't wait for the
all right.
rewrites. You guys can talk about it.
See, that's the thing here. We don't do what liberals do here. We don't jump at the bit and say it's going to have this, that, and the third. And then when this, that, and the third doesn't end up, nobody comes back and say, I apologize for saying that it's going to have this, that, and the third. Again, you're
So
arguing.
what would you like changed
Evan,
in it?
stop for a second. See, you're arguing about something. What would I like to have changed? I want to see the final bill, not drafts of it, not what passes through committee, the bill that they are going to sign. We got to see that before you start asking me what is in the bill that I like and I don't like.
If it's an
I don't do
ends up
ifs.
being an
I don't do ifs, sir. I don't do hypotheticals.
So you're just never going to talk about it.
No.
I can't-
What did I
can't do any
just,
conjecture.
Evan, it shows how disingenuous you are. Did you hear what I just said? I don't talk about a bill that hasn't been written and presented yet. You're asking me to ask questions or answer questions about things that I've not seen.
How about this then? Let's do what you said. Let's not talk about a bill that hasn't been written yet, even though it's out of committee. How about the 2018 bill? If it ends up being an extension of that, are you good with it?
No. Okay.
And which parts of that would you not be good with?
All of it. That good?
Perfect. So you want the entire bill that came out of committee gone?
Evan, sarcasm.
I appreciate you saying that.
Listen, sarcasm's not your thing. I apologize. You listen to me. Here's what I'm going to do, Evan. I'm going to do one better for you. I'm going to dedicate time to you. You can't call me at the end of the show to beef about something and then expect me to go through a long-out process with you. I'm literally like 2 minutes or less than a minute before we get out of here. You're going to have to join the show earlier. So please, take some time, call the show at 3 o'clock, and I'll hash this out for you. In fact, I'll do one better. After we see the final bill that goes to the vote, then you and I can hash it out, and I can tell you exactly what I like and I don't like. But I'll tell you this.
I love it. Have me in studio. I'll take an afternoon. I'm a tax professional. I can speak to it.
Great. Listen, I totally appreciate it. But I will tell you this. Just for your time, Evan, I'm going to put you on hold because I'm going to make you our last but not least caller of the day. So stay online. We will get him a dozen bagels a month for 6 months. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You, have a good night, pleasant tomorrow. Hey, do me a favor, Roland. Get Evan's actual number, and we'll make sure that we bring him onto the show so we can spend some time with him since, he's a tax guy. We'd love to talk to him about this bill. Anyway, Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center, and Jason Caterina's got your weather. Good night, Mark. See you tomorrow.
Reese, have a great night. If you're heading into Hartford right now, 84 eastbound delays 46th Citizens Avenue to the Bulkley. Westbound 84 is tied up, approaching the...
All right, good sir.
Thank you, sir. It's been a fantastic day.
Down to 32 A and B. If you're traveling on the northbound side,
I will see you mañana.
See you mañana. Enjoy.
All right. How much was it? And how much did the Democrats read the major bills that Pelosi pushed through? Yes, I know. We have to pass the bill so we can find out what is in it. By the way, I'm getting that audio for him as well. Thank you, Michael A. As always, thank you guys. Have a wonderful one. I think our black activists, or as I like to call them, blacktivists, they bounced on the show early today. I wonder why. They must have got upset. That's okay. It goes with the program. All right, see you guys tomorrow.